In a world where the weight of external judgments, the constant pressure of societal expectations, and the hunger for approval often dominate our lives, it's easy to forget an essential question. Why do we care so much about what others think? Why do we allow their opinions, whether real or imagined, to create turmoil in our minds and pull us away from the inner peace that is naturally available to us? This question holds the key to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the root of much of our suffering. Buddhism, with its timeless wisdom, offers a profound teaching that can help us unravel this mystery. One of the central truths of the Buddhist path is that a great deal of our suffering comes from attachment, and not just to material things or specific outcomes, but also to our ideas, beliefs, and, most poignantly, to the opinions of others. We become attached to what people think of us, how we are perceived, and whether we receive their approval. We base our sense of worth on the judgments of the outside world, and this creates an endless cycle of striving, disappointment, and anxiety. This attachment to external validation is a powerful force. It convinces us that our happiness depends on the approval of others, whether it's the praise of a friend, the respect of a colleague, or the recognition of society at large. We start shaping our actions, our thoughts, and even our sense of self around the need for validation. But here's the liberating insight. The reality is, most people don't care as much as we think they do. While we may feel the weight of others' judgments, it's crucial to realize that those judgments are often fleeting, and they are driven by the other person's own insecurities, desires, and attachments. When we live in constant pursuit of external approval, we are not only giving away our power, but also allowing others to dictate how we feel about ourselves. We become prisoners to the fluctuating winds of others' opinions, unable to experience true freedom or peace. The beauty of this realization is that it opens the door to true liberation, the freedom to be who we are, unburdened by the weight of external validation. Buddhism teaches us that real freedom comes when we let go of this need for approval. When we release our attachment to what others think, we reclaim our inner peace. This is not to say that we should become indifferent or uncaring about others. Quite the opposite. We are encouraged to cultivate compassion, kindness, and wisdom, but these qualities come from a place of genuine inner understanding, not from the desire to impress or seek favor. The essence of the Dharma, or the Buddhist path, is about learning to detach from the external and focus on cultivating what is within: peace, wisdom, and compassion. By turning inward and aligning ourselves with these qualities, we gradually let go of the constant striving for validation. We begin to experience a kind of freedom that is not dependent on the approval of others, but on the deep, unshakable understanding that our true nature is already complete. True happiness, according to Buddhism, is not something that can be found through external validation or the pursuit of fleeting desires. Instead, it arises from a sense of alignment with our deeper self, a self that is not influenced by the judgments or opinions of others. It comes from understanding that we are enough just as we are, and that true liberation comes when we free ourselves from the cycle of attachment and judgment. In the end, the path to peace is not about constantly seeking approval or trying to control how others see us. It is about releasing those attachments, grounding ourselves in the present moment, and nurturing the qualities within us that lead to lasting happiness. When we learn to detach from the noise of the outside world, we create the space for our inner wisdom to arise and guide us toward a life of deeper fulfillment and lasting peace. 1. Stop seeking validation. One of the greatest obstacles to personal freedom is our relentless need for validation. We often find ourselves seeking approval from others in a variety of ways, through likes and comments on social media, compliments from friends or colleagues, or recognition in our personal and professional lives. We are conditioned to think that these external affirmations are essential to our self-worth. Yet the more we chase after this external validation, the more we realize that it is elusive and fleeting. It's like trying to fill a cup with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much we pour into it, it will never stay full. This is a profound insight, one that is echoed in the teachings of the Buddha, who warned against the dangers of clinging to external sources of approval. The Buddha's wisdom, centuries old yet deeply relevant today, reminds us that true freedom comes from within. One of the central tenets of Buddhism is the idea of self-reliance, not in an egoic or selfish sense, but in the sense of taking full responsibility for our own inner peace and happiness. He famously said, "Be a light unto yourself." In other words, instead of relying on the fleeting opinions of others to define our worth, we are encouraged to seek validation from within, to ground our sense of self-worth in our own values, our principles, and our deeper understanding of who we truly are, rather than in the judgments and approvals of the world around us. This doesn't mean that we should reject all feedback or stop nurturing relationships with others. Feedback can be incredibly valuable, and relationships can bring us joy, support, and connection. However, the key distinction here is that our happiness and sense of self-worth should not depend on what others think of us or how others perceive us. We should not let the approval of others define who we are or determine our happiness. When we constantly seek validation from others, we give away our personal power. We allow others to dictate how we feel about ourselves. The opinions of others become the measure by which we gauge our worth, and this leads to a never-ending cycle of seeking, pleasing, and often feeling disappointed or empty. Take a moment to reflect. How much of your day is spent seeking approval or recognition from others? Do you find yourself checking your social media accounts, looking for likes or comments that boost your self-esteem? Do you feel elated when others compliment you and deflated when you receive no recognition or approval? While there's nothing wrong with feeling good when others acknowledge or appreciate us, the danger lies in becoming dependent on this external feedback to validate our sense of self-worth. The truth is, external validation is inherently unstable. The likes on your social media post can quickly fade away. Compliments can be insincere or forgotten, and recognition can be overlooked or delayed. In a world where opinions shift and trends change, the approval of others is temporary at best and unreliable at worst. This is why the Buddha's message is so powerful. By anchoring our sense of self-worth in the wisdom and clarity that comes from within, we create a stable foundation for our happiness, one that is not shaken by the opinions or judgments of others. When we make the decision to validate ourselves, we take back control. We reclaim the power to determine our own happiness, our own worth, and our own path. This is what true freedom looks like. Freedom from the need to constantly please others, freedom from the anxiety of measuring up to external expectations, and freedom from the never-ending search for approval. This is not to say that we should become indifferent to others or dismiss their opinions outright. Rather, it means that we no longer let those opinions control us. We are free to listen to others, learn from them, and engage with them. But we do so from a place of inner strength, knowing that our worth does not depend on their approval. So, how can we begin to cultivate this inner validation? One of the first steps is to become more self-aware. We need to ask ourselves the difficult questions. Am I living in alignment with my values and principles? Do I feel good about the choices I am making in my life, regardless of whether others approve or not? Am I acting in a way that reflects the person I want to be, the life I want to lead? If the answer to these questions is yes, then you have already found the only kind of validation that truly matters. the validation that comes from knowing you are living a life of integrity and purpose. When you begin to live according to your own values, you will find that the need for external validation starts to lose its grip on you. You will feel a greater sense of peace because you will no longer be swayed by the opinions of others. You will be able to make decisions based on what feels right to you, rather than what will make you popular, accepted, or admired. You will trust yourself and your judgment, and this confidence will radiate outward, making you less dependent on the approval of others. In many ways, living without the need for external validation is an act of self-love. It's an acknowledgement that you are enough, just as you are, and that your worth is not contingent upon meeting someone else's standards. It's also an act of courage, because it takes strength to stand firm in your truth, especially when it feels like everyone else is playing by different rules. But when you stop chasing approval, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation and start to enjoy the peace that comes from being at home with yourself. Another way to deepen your inner validation is through mindfulness and meditation. These practices help you connect with your inner world, where you can access the wisdom and clarity that guide you toward living authentically. In the quiet moments of meditation, you can reflect on your values, your intentions, and the kind of person you want to be in the world. You can ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What do I want to contribute to the world? What kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? These questions are the foundation of self-validation. They help you develop a sense of purpose that is not dependent on others' opinions, but on the deeper truths that arise from within. Ultimately, when you stop looking outward for approval, you begin to look inward, and that is where true freedom lies. The external world is unpredictable and constantly changing, but when you connect with your own inner wisdom, you tap into a source of power and clarity that is unshakable. You are no longer a victim of others' judgments or opinions. You are the creator of your own reality. This inner validation also leads to greater compassion for others. When you stop needing approval from others, you are able to love them without the agenda of getting something in return. You can support, appreciate, and connect with others from a place of unconditional kindness, because your sense of self-worth is not dependent on their responses. You begin to act out of love, not out of a need to be validated. In the end, the pursuit of self-validation is not about rejecting others or withdrawing from the world. It is about reclaiming your power to define your own worth. It is about aligning with your own values and principles, living a life of integrity and purpose, and finding peace within yourself, regardless of external circumstances. When you live in alignment with your inner truth, you find that you no longer need the approval of others. You already have everything you need to be whole and complete. You are the light unto yourself. 2. Take responsibility for your life. It's a common and often automatic response to look outward when things go wrong. When life gets challenging, when we face setbacks or difficult situations, it's tempting to place blame on others or external circumstances. We might think, if only this person would act differently, or if only I had more money, a better job, or a different background, my life would be so much easier. It's natural to look outside of ourselves for reasons for our struggles, but here's the truth that can set us free. Waiting for external changes to fix our problems only keeps us stuck in a cycle of powerlessness. The Buddha, in his profound wisdom, spoke clearly on this matter. He said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." These words cut through the illusion of blame and point us toward the path of self-reliance and responsibility. The truth is, no one else can walk the path for us. No one else can change our thoughts, our attitudes, or our responses to life's challenges. While we cannot always control external circumstances, we do have the power to choose how we respond to them. This is the essence of personal responsibility, and it is the key to unlocking personal freedom and growth. Taking responsibility for your life doesn't mean that you are to blame for every hardship you face. Life is unpredictable, and bad things do happen. Circumstances can be unfair, and we can be deeply affected by the actions of others. But taking responsibility means understanding that, while we cannot control everything, we can control how we engage with our experiences. It means accepting that we have the power to shape our own thoughts, actions, and decisions, and that how we respond to difficulties is what determines our growth and ultimately our happiness. This shift in perspective is not about ignoring the reality of suffering, nor is it about denying the impact that others or circumstances have on us. It's about understanding that how we respond to suffering is within our control. When we take ownership of our responses, we reclaim our personal power. Instead of feeling like victims of our circumstances, we begin to see ourselves as active participants in our own lives. We are not helpless, waiting for life to change. We are capable of shaping the course of our own journey. One of the most important things to realize is that life will always present challenges. This is a fundamental truth. No matter how much we wish for things to be easier or for the world to be different, there will always be obstacles. Some may be big, some small, some may be temporary, others long-lasting. Challenges are a part of the human experience, and trying to avoid or deny them will only keep us stuck. But the good news is that it is not the challenges themselves that define us. It is how we choose to face them that shapes our character, our growth, and ultimately our happiness. Think for a moment about the challenges you are facing right now, whether they are personal, professional, or relational. How are you responding to them? Are you waiting for external circumstances to change, hoping that someone or something will come to your rescue? Or are you stepping into your power, taking responsibility for how you respond, and looking for ways to grow through the experience? The truth is, every small decision you make today shapes the life you'll have tomorrow. It might not always feel like it, but every choice, every thought, every action is a seed that you are planting for the future. Even in the smallest moments, you are creating the conditions for the life you will live. When you choose to learn something new, when you choose to practice kindness, when you choose to let go of a toxic habit, you are actively shaping the person you are becoming. These small, everyday decisions may seem insignificant at the time, but over time, they compound and create the reality you experience. Think about the power of a single decision. Deciding to take better care of your health today may seem like a small action, but it can set in motion a series of positive changes. Choosing to forgive someone, even when they don't ask for it, can heal wounds that have held you back for years. Committing to change one negative thought pattern can create a ripple effect that transforms your entire mindset. The power of these small decisions is enormous. They are the building blocks of the life you will have tomorrow, and they are all within your control. Taking full ownership of your life means not only embracing the good moments, but also taking responsibility for the challenges, the mistakes, and the setbacks. It means acknowledging that, even in the face of hardship, you have the power to choose how you respond. This can be an incredibly empowering realization. It's the recognition that, while you may not have control over everything, you always have control over yourself. And with that control comes the potential for deep transformation. The practice of taking responsibility also involves letting go of the victim mindset. We all have stories we tell ourselves about why things are the way they are. It's easy to get stuck in the narrative of, "It's not my fault," or "This is just how things are." But clinging to these stories only keeps us anchored in the past and prevents us from moving forward. Taking responsibility means letting go of the need to blame others or make excuses. It means recognizing that no matter what has happened, we have the power to move forward. We don't have to be defined by our circumstances. We can rise above them. One of the most important aspects of taking responsibility is cultivating a growth mindset. Instead of viewing challenges as obstacles, see them as opportunities for growth. Every difficulty contains within it the potential for learning and transformation. When you take responsibility for your life, you stop seeing yourself as a passive observer and become an active participant in your own evolution. You realize that every challenge is an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, to develop resilience, and to cultivate new strengths. It's also important to remember that taking responsibility doesn't mean doing everything alone. We are all interconnected, and no one is an island. Asking for help, seeking guidance, and learning from others are all part of the journey. But taking responsibility means recognizing that you are the one who must walk the path. You are the one who must make the choices, take the steps, and shape your own destiny. Others can offer support, wisdom, and encouragement, but the decision to change, to grow, and to take control of your life ultimately rests with you. The power to shape your life is within your hands, right now. You don't need to wait for external circumstances to change before you begin to take charge of your destiny. The decisions you make today, however small they may seem, have the power to transform your tomorrow. Every act of kindness, every step you take toward your goals, every moment you choose to cultivate peace of mind, these are all acts of ownership. These are the ways you begin to create the life you want. When you take full ownership of your life, you begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. You are stronger than you think, more resilient than you know, and more capable of change than you give yourself credit for. The power to shape your destiny is within you, and it is waiting to be unleashed. Embrace it, and you will discover that, no matter what challenges come your way, you have the strength and the wisdom to meet them head-on and create a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. 3. Focus on growth. Growth is one of the most profound and central themes in Buddhism. It's not about reaching a final destination or attaining some state of perfection. Rather, it's about the continuous evolving process of becoming a better version of yourself. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that life is a journey of transformation, one that unfolds gradually over time, with each moment offering an opportunity to deepen our understanding, strengthen our resolve, and cultivate wisdom and compassion. A common misconception is that growth is linear, or that there's a final endpoint where we become fully enlightened, perfectly happy, or completely free from suffering. But Buddhism teaches us that growth is much more about the ongoing process than a single moment of arrival. It's not about achieving a particular goal or proving our worth. It's about engaging with life with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to learn from every experience. One of the key aspects of the Buddha's teachings is that comparing yourself to others only leads to dissatisfaction and envy. In a world that constantly encourages comparison, whether through social media, competitive work environments, or cultural standards of success, it's easy to lose sight of our own personal journey. We might look at someone else's achievements and think, I should be further along, or I'm not good enough because I'm not like them. These comparisons distract us from our own path and create feelings of inadequacy. The Buddha, however, encouraged us to let go of these judgments and instead to focus inward, measuring our growth by how we overcome our personal struggles, not by how we measure up to others. Ask yourself, what small steps can I take today to move closer to the person I want to become? Growth doesn't always look like dramatic, life-changing moments. Sometimes, the most profound changes come in the quiet, subtle shifts that occur in everyday life. These small actions, though they may seem insignificant at first, are the building blocks of true transformation. Choosing patience instead of reacting in anger, practicing gratitude instead of complaining, or taking time for self-care and meditation. These are the practices that quietly, over time, lead to profound growth. The beauty of growth is that it happens in the ordinary moments, not just in the extraordinary ones. Many people think of growth as a series of grand accomplishments or achievements, but real progress often happens in the small, incremental steps we take each day. For example, choosing to pause and breathe before reacting in anger or irritation may seem like a small decision, but over time, this simple practice can shift your overall state of mind, reduce your stress, and increase your sense of inner peace. Similarly, practicing gratitude in the face of adversity might not immediately change your circumstances, but it can shift your perspective and help you develop resilience, strengthening your ability to navigate life's challenges with greater calm and clarity. When we focus on our own growth, we begin to understand that every moment offers an opportunity for transformation. It's not about reaching some idealized version of ourselves, but about meeting each moment with awareness, compassion, and a commitment to doing our best. The journey is about cultivating qualities like patience, mindfulness, kindness, and wisdom, and allowing them to take root in our hearts. Another important aspect of growth is embracing mistakes and failures. Many people fear failure, thinking of it as something to avoid at all costs. But in Buddhism, failure is not something to be feared. It's something to be learned from. Every mistake is an opportunity to reflect, learn, adapt, and improve. The Buddha himself faced countless challenges and hardships on his own journey to enlightenment, and rather than seeing them as failures, he used them as stepping stones to deepen his understanding and compassion. When we shift our perspective on failure, we begin to see it not as a setback, but as a valuable part of our growth process. It's through failure that we gain insight into where we need to improve, where our blind spots are, and where our weaknesses lie. Without failure, there would be no opportunity for growth, no opportunity to cultivate resilience, patience, or wisdom. Instead of fearing mistakes, we can learn to embrace them as necessary steps on the path. Every failure offers the potential for personal development, as it forces us to reflect, adapt, and become more skillful in our responses. The key is not to be discouraged by mistakes, but to see them as opportunities for deeper learning. As the Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. Our mindset around mistakes is crucial. If we view them as failures, we are likely to feel defeated. But if we view them as lessons, we open the door to growth. Focusing on growth also means letting go of self-judgment. Often we are our own harshest critics. We might get frustrated with ourselves when we don't live up to our expectations or when we fall short of our goals. But the Buddha taught that compassion begins with ourselves. Growth is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about cultivating a kinder, more understanding attitude toward ourselves as we move through life's challenges. Every step, no matter how small, is progress. Every moment of mindfulness, every act of patience, every time we choose kindness, these are the moments that contribute to our growth. One of the most liberating aspects of Buddhist practice is the understanding that growth is a lifelong journey. There is no rush, no endpoint to reach, no final exam. It's not about getting it right all the time, but about showing up, engaging with life with an open heart, and being willing to learn from whatever arises. Every challenge, every joy, every hardship, and every success is part of this ongoing process of becoming. The journey of growth is not linear. It's a series of twists and turns, ups and downs. But with each step, no matter how small, we become more attuned to our inner wisdom, more connected to the world around us, and more at peace with ourselves. As you continue on your journey, ask yourself, what small step can I take today to become the person I want to be tomorrow? This question is not about perfection, it's about intention. It's about recognizing that even the smallest acts of kindness, patience, or mindfulness contribute to the person you are becoming. When we focus on growth, we realize that there are no wrong steps, only opportunities to learn and deepen our practice. And even when we stumble or fall, we can get back up with the understanding that each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of mindfulness in our growth. Being mindful means being present in each moment, fully aware of our thoughts, emotions, and actions. It means not rushing through life, but taking the time to reflect, to check in with ourselves, and to understand how we are engaging with the world. Mindfulness allows us to see the small shifts in our habits and attitudes, and it gives us the tools to gently guide ourselves toward greater wisdom and compassion. Ultimately, the journey of growth is one of self-discovery. It's about learning to trust yourself, to be kind to yourself, and to remain patient as you navigate life's challenges. It's not about reaching an endpoint, but about engaging fully in the process of becoming. Every step forward is an act of courage, a choice to grow, and a commitment to living more authentically. And in this way, growth is not just something we achieve. It's something we embody in every thought, word, and action. Each moment of our lives is an opportunity for growth, and in every small step, we move closer to the person we are meant to be. 4. Block out the noise. In today's world, the noise around us is overwhelming. It often feels like we are constantly bombarded by opinions, criticisms, and distractions at every turn. Whether it's the constant stream of news, the pressures of social media, or the unsolicited advice from friends and strangers alike, we are led to believe that we must conform to certain expectations, fulfill others' desires, and measure up to societal standards. We are told who we should be, how we should look, and what we should do. Yet in the midst of all this noise, there lies a deeper truth. Most of what we hear and encounter on a daily basis is irrelevant to our true path, our inner peace, and our personal growth. In Buddhism, mindfulness is a powerful tool for navigating this noise. Mindfulness, at its core, is about being fully present in the moment, paying attention to our thoughts, emotions, and experiences without judgment, and without getting lost in the distractions of the world. It teaches us to center our awareness on what truly matters and to let go of the extraneous noise that only serves to divert our focus. When we practice mindfulness, we are better able to discern which thoughts, opinions, and distractions are worthy of our attention, and which ones we can release in order to preserve our peace of mind and clarity. The power of the present moment. The first step in cutting through the noise is learning to focus our attention on the present moment. In the modern world, it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of shoulds and musts that are constantly being thrown at us. We may find ourselves overwhelmed by the sheer volume of expectations, both external and internal, that dictate how we should be living our lives. But when we practice mindfulness, we can begin to step back from this chaos and bring our attention to the here and now. The present moment is where our true power lies. It is the only moment we can truly control. When we spend all our energy thinking about what others expect of us or worrying about the future, we miss out on the richness of the present moment. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to direct our focus away from the distractions that fill our minds, and instead immerse ourselves fully in whatever we are doing. Whether it's a conversation with a loved one, a simple walk outside, or the act of eating, mindfulness allows us to experience life deeply, without the constant chatter of external noise. Mindfulness helps us see that many of the distractions that vie for our attention are simply temporary and fleeting. They may seem urgent or important in the moment, but when we step back and reflect, we realize that they are not essential to our journey of growth and self-discovery. When we focus on the present moment, we create space to listen to our own inner voice, which is far more aligned with our true needs and desires than the noise of the outside world. Letting go of irrelevant thoughts and opinions. Ask yourself, does this thought or opinion truly matter to my goals and peace of mind? The key question here is whether or not something aligns with your personal values, your long-term goals, and your sense of inner peace. The world is filled with opinions, from family members, friends, colleagues, and even complete strangers. Some of these opinions may be helpful, others may be neutral, and still others may be outright critical. But just because something is said, it doesn't mean it deserves our attention or that it holds any real weight. In Buddhism, one of the core teachings is the idea of non-attachment. This means not becoming overly attached to the opinions of others or to the fleeting thoughts and judgments that arise in our minds. While it's natural to seek validation or approval from others, mindfulness encourages us to ask whether these external judgments truly matter. Often, we find that they don't. Many of the things we worry about, whether it's a comment made by someone, a social media post, or a piece of advice we received, are not truly important in the grand scheme of our lives. They are distractions, pulling us away from what is truly important. If the answer to the question, does this thought or opinion truly matter to my goals and peace of mind, is no, then the next step is to let it go. Releasing unnecessary thoughts and opinions is an act of self-care. It allows us to redirect our energy toward what truly matters and to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions. When we release the clutter of irrelevant distractions, we create space for clarity and purpose. Setting boundaries, protecting your energy. Blocking out the noise isn't just about letting go of thoughts. It's also about setting clear boundaries with the people and situations that drain your energy. There are certain relationships and environments that are not conducive to our well-being. Some people may be critical or overly demanding, while others may simply bring negativity or chaos into our lives. Setting boundaries means protecting your energy and your peace of mind by choosing how and when to engage with others. One of the most empowering aspects of mindfulness is the ability to discern what is truly nurturing for you and what is not. By becoming more aware of your inner state, you can more easily recognize when something or someone is contributing to your well-being and when something is draining your energy. Setting boundaries means consciously deciding where to invest your time, attention, and emotional energy. It might involve distancing yourself from toxic relationships, limiting time spent in stressful environments, or simply saying no to requests that don't align with your values. For example, in the age of constant digital distractions, it's essential to create boundaries around your time spent on social media or consuming news. Mindfully choosing when and how to engage with technology can help protect your mental and emotional well-being. Social media, for instance, can often be a source of comparison and overwhelm, leading to feelings of inadequacy or disconnection. By setting boundaries around your digital consumption, you regain control of your attention and energy. It's equally important to set boundaries in personal relationships. Not all relationships are healthy or supportive, and it's crucial to surround yourself with individuals who lift you up, who encourage your growth, and who resonate with your values. Sometimes, this might mean having difficult conversations or making choices that feel uncomfortable in the short term. But in the long term, these boundaries protect your peace of mind, and enable you to focus on what truly matters to you. Finding clarity and purpose in the midst of the noise. When we stop seeking external validation and start turning inward for guidance, we begin to find a deeper sense of clarity and purpose. The more we focus on our own voice, rather than the opinions and distractions of the world, the more we discover our true direction. We become more in tune with what we truly need, what brings us joy, and what aligns with our deepest values. Mindfulness helps us reconnect with our purpose. It encourages us to slow down and reflect on our intentions, to ask ourselves, what is truly important to me, and how do I want to show up in the world? This clarity is not something that can be found in the noise of external distractions. It can only be found when we quiet the chatter and tune into the quiet wisdom that lies within. When we begin to align our actions with our values, we create a sense of purpose and direction that no external opinion or distraction can shake. The power of inner peace. Ultimately, learning to block out the noise and focus on our own inner voice leads to a profound sense of inner peace. When we stop being influenced by every passing opinion or every external distraction, we create a calm space within ourselves. It's in this space of peace that we are most connected to our true selves, and it is from this place that we make decisions, set intentions, and live with purpose. The Buddha's teachings remind us that the path to peace and enlightenment is not about controlling the world around us, but about controlling our responses to it. It's about learning to remain steady and centered in the midst of chaos, to hear our own voice amidst the noise, and to stay true to our path. When you focus on your own journey, on your own growth and development, and let go of the external noise, you create the conditions for clarity, peace, and purpose to flourish. You stop chasing after fleeting opinions and instead cultivate the wisdom to trust your own intuition. In doing so, you discover that you are capable of creating a life that is not dictated by the world's chatter, but one that is shaped by your own inner truth. 5. Your freedom. Nobody cares, so live your life. Many of us live our lives as if we're constantly under a spotlight, believing that every move we make is being watched, judged, and scrutinized by others. Whether it's our actions, appearance, or achievements, we can easily fall into the trap of imagining that others are forming opinions about us at every moment. We become overly aware of how we present ourselves, fearing that any misstep will lead to criticism or rejection. This mindset, where we feel we are always being evaluated, can be incredibly paralyzing. It leads to overthinking, hesitation, and a pervasive fear of failure because we become so concerned with what others might think of us. But here's the liberating truth, one that is both freeing and transformative. Nobody cares as much as you think they do. While it may sound harsh at first, it's incredibly empowering once you internalize it. The reality is that most people are far too absorbed in their own lives to spend much time thinking about yours. They are busy navigating their own worries, ambitions, insecurities, and responsibilities. Sure, people might notice your actions, your appearance, or your success for a fleeting moment, but the truth is, their thoughts on the matter are often brief and soon forgotten. This isn't to say that your life doesn't matter or that your experiences are not important. Quite the opposite. This realization is meant to free you from the weight of constantly seeking validation and fearing judgment. Imagine the energy and mental space you could reclaim if you stopped worrying about how others perceive you. Think about how much time you spend second-guessing your choices or holding back from doing something meaningful out of fear of being criticized or misunderstood. How many times have you held yourself back from pursuing a new career, starting a business, or expressing your authentic thoughts because you were afraid of how others might react? Perhaps you've worried about wearing what you love, afraid that someone might judge your fashion choices, or maybe you've hesitated to speak your truth in a conversation, fearing that your opinion might be dismissed. But the truth is, these fears are largely imagined. People are not as focused on you as you believe. The imagined judgments and criticisms in your mind are often far more pronounced than anything that would ever be said aloud by others. The path to freedom. Living for yourself. When you embrace the reality that people don't care as much as you think, a whole new world of freedom opens up. You stop living your life to meet others' expectations. You no longer feel the need to modify your dreams, goals and behaviors just to fit into a mold that someone else might find acceptable. Instead, you begin to live for yourself. Living authentically means aligning your actions with your core values and passions. It means having the courage to pursue what matters most to you, regardless of the potential for criticism or rejection. Once you stop modifying your behavior to please others, you'll discover an inner strength and clarity that allows you to confidently take the next step, even if it means stepping outside your comfort zone. This shift in perspective also opens the door to taking risks, something that is often stifled by the fear of failure in front of an imagined audience. So often, we avoid stepping out of our comfort zones because we're afraid of failing publicly. But when you realize that most people are too preoccupied with their own challenges to care much about your failures, you start to see failure in a new light. Failure no longer becomes a source of shame, but a valuable learning experience. You become free to try, fail, and try again. It's all part of the process. You begin to understand that the imagined audience in your head, the people whose opinions you fear, doesn't actually exist. They aren't watching you as closely as you think. With this understanding, you gain the courage to take risks and live a fuller, more adventurous life. The power of self-validation. Living your life for yourself does not mean acting selfishly or disregarding the feelings and needs of others. It's not about ignoring your responsibilities or your relationships. It's about honoring your own dreams, values, and desires while maintaining a balance with your commitments to the people you care about. By letting go of the need for constant approval from others, you can begin to trust yourself more deeply. You no longer need to ask permission from anyone to live a meaningful life. In fact, living authentically sets an example for others. When you prioritize your own values, you inspire those around you to do the same. You show them that it is possible to live in alignment with what feels true and meaningful. In a world where so many people are driven by external pressures and societal expectations, your commitment to authenticity becomes a quiet but powerful act of courage. By no longer living in response to the expectations of others, you create more space for your own growth. You no longer feel like you are constantly adjusting your course to fit into someone else's plan. Instead, you begin to trust that the choices you make are the right ones for you, because they reflect your true self. Letting go of the fear of judgment. Another key aspect of living for yourself is letting go of the fear of judgment. Many of us are conditioned to fear the opinions of others, whether it's the fear of being criticized for our appearance, our choices, or our beliefs. This fear often keeps us stuck, preventing us from fully stepping into our potential. We worry that if we do something different or bold, others will judge us and think less of us. But once you realize that most people are far too wrapped up in their own lives to judge yours, you begin to understand that the fear of judgment is largely unfounded. It's important to remember that when people judge you, they are really revealing more about themselves than they are about you. People project their own insecurities and assumptions onto others, but that doesn't make their judgments true. In fact, judgments are often fleeting and not worth carrying. Letting go of the fear of judgment is a process, but it's one that becomes easier as you shift your focus from external validation to internal fulfillment. you stop letting other people's opinions dictate your choices. Instead, you start making decisions based on your own values, your own desires, and your own understanding of what is best for you. The key to happiness. You are responsible for it. At the heart of this shift in perspective lies the realization that you are responsible for your own happiness. Happiness is something we all seek, yet many of us mistakenly place the responsibility for it in the hands of others or in external circumstances. We think, I'll be happy when I have a better job, when I'm in a relationship, when people respect me, or when I achieve this or that goal. But the truth is, happiness doesn't come from the outside. It is created from within, and you are the one responsible for it. Buddhist teachings emphasize that happiness is a state of mind, not a result of external achievements or possessions. As the Buddha said, happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. This means that no matter your circumstances, your mindset determines whether you experience peace and contentment. Happiness is a choice, a mindset that you cultivate by shifting your perspective and your reactions to life's challenges. If you rely on external factors, like the approval of others, material success, or perfect circumstances, your happiness will always be unstable and fleeting. External factors are temporary and constantly changing. A new job might bring joy for a while, but the excitement will fade, and you'll find yourself seeking something else. A relationship can bring love and support, but it can't shield you from life's inevitable challenges or guarantee constant happiness. People might praise you today, but tomorrow they could criticize you. Pinning your happiness on these unstable things means you're always at the mercy of forces beyond your control. True happiness comes from within, from cultivating a mindset of acceptance, gratitude, and self-compassion. When you shift your focus from seeking validation from others to seeking peace within yourself, you begin to realize that happiness is not something to be found, but something to be nurtured from the inside out. Living authentically, the ultimate freedom. When you internalize the truth that nobody cares as much as you think, and when you begin to live for yourself, a deep sense of freedom follows. You no longer feel the weight of constant judgment, criticism, or the need to please others. Instead, you create a life that reflects who you truly are, not who others think you should be. This authenticity is the ultimate form of freedom, and it's the key to living a fulfilling and meaningful life. Living authentically allows you to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them without fear of judgment. It enables you to pursue your passions, build the life you want, and embrace opportunities that align with your values. It's a journey that doesn't require permission from anyone else, only your own inner courage and conviction. As you live more authentically, you also find that the energy you once spent worrying about what others think is now redirected toward creating the life you truly desire. You reclaim your power to shape your own path. The opinions of others no longer define you. Your actions, courage, and choices do. So, let go of the fear, the doubt, and the imagined critics in your mind. Step boldly into the life you want to create. Embrace the freedom that comes from living authentically. You don't need anyone else's approval to live a meaningful, fulfilling life. The journey is yours to walk. The power of taking responsibility for your happiness. The good news is that true happiness comes from within. It's not something that can be found outside of you, in material possessions, other people, or even in societal achievements. True, lasting happiness is cultivated from the inside, and the wonderful part is, you have the power to create it. Taking responsibility for your happiness may initially feel daunting, perhaps even overwhelming, but it is, in fact, one of the most empowering realizations you can have. It means that no matter what happens around you, you hold the key to your own peace, joy, and contentment. The shift from external to internal happiness. For many of us, happiness seems to be something we wait for or search for. We think that happiness will come once we meet certain conditions, when we get the job, the relationship, the house, the approval. We believe that life has to align perfectly in order for us to feel happy. However, this mindset places our happiness in the hands of external circumstances, and as anyone who has lived long enough knows, life is rarely perfect. The truth is that happiness is not something that happens to you. It's something you create for yourself. It's not the world's job to make you happy. It's your job. Looking inward. The first step to self-responsibility. The first step in taking responsibility for your happiness is to look inward. This requires you to ask some deep and meaningful questions. What truly brings me joy? What makes me feel fulfilled and at peace? You may be surprised to realize that it's often not the big, flashy things we think will make us happy. It's not the material successes or the validation from others. True joy tends to come from the simple, meaningful moments, the things that are right in front of you, but which you may overlook in the rush of daily life. Buddhist teachings encourage the practice of mindfulness, which is the art of being fully present in each moment. Mindfulness is a key to happiness because it helps you to become more aware of the beauty and peace that exists right now in the present moment. When you practice mindfulness, you stop rushing toward the future or dwelling on the past. Instead, you begin to find joy in the present, no matter how small the moment may seem. For instance, you might find joy in a warm cup of tea, the sound of birds chirping outside your window, or a quiet moment of reflection. You begin to appreciate these fleeting moments for the simple pleasures they provide. These are not grand accomplishments or external successes. They are moments of being, not doing. And this is where true happiness lies. The transformative power of gratitude. One of the most powerful tools for cultivating happiness is gratitude. When you focus on what you already have, instead of constantly chasing after what you lack, you shift your perspective. Gratitude trains your mind to recognize the abundance in your life, even when things are challenging. Instead of thinking, "I'll be happy when," you begin to appreciate the blessings in your life right now. Gratitude shifts your focus from the negative to the positive, from what you don't have to what you do have. It trains your mind to look for the good, even in the midst of hardship. Research has shown that practicing gratitude regularly can increase happiness and well-being. It's a simple yet transformative habit. So, take a moment each day to reflect on the things you are thankful for: your health, your loved ones, a quiet evening, the beauty of nature, the small acts of kindness you've experienced. As you cultivate a habit of gratitude, you will notice a profound shift in your overall sense of well-being. Self-compassion. Being kind to yourself. Another essential practice in taking responsibility for your happiness is self-compassion. Too often, we are our own harshest critics. We judge ourselves for our mistakes, criticize our flaws, and hold ourselves to impossibly high standards. This constant self-judgment creates feelings of unworthiness and discontent. But happiness cannot grow in a soil of self-criticism. Happiness flourishes when we treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. Self-compassion means accepting yourself as you are, flaws, mistakes and all, and treating yourself with the same care and love that you would show to a dear friend. It's about recognizing that, like all human beings, you will make mistakes and face challenges. You are not perfect, but you are worthy of love and happiness just as you are. When you practice self-compassion, you stop berating yourself for every perceived flaw. Instead, you begin to acknowledge your humanity and treat yourself with the same patience and understanding you would offer someone else in your position. This self-kindness creates an inner peace that allows happiness to bloom, regardless of external circumstances. Letting go of perfection. Taking responsibility for your happiness also means letting go of the idea that life has to be perfect in order for you to be content. Many of us have the belief that we can't be happy unless everything in our lives is flawless. But this mindset is unrealistic and sets us up for disappointment. Buddhism teaches that suffering is an inevitable part of life. No one is exempt from difficulties, loss, or hardship. Life will always present challenges, whether it's dealing with the loss of a loved one, facing health problems, or struggling with financial stress. But Buddhism also teaches that while suffering is part of the human experience, our response to suffering is what truly matters. By facing challenges with resilience, acceptance, and a calm mind, you can maintain a sense of peace, even in difficult times. Happiness is not about avoiding pain or hardship, but about developing the capacity to navigate through them with grace and mindfulness. Instead of waiting for life to be perfect before allowing yourself to be happy, you learn to find joy in the imperfect, to embrace the ups and downs of life without losing your center. The role of support and community. Taking responsibility for your happiness does not mean you have to do it all on your own. Seeking support from loved ones, pursuing therapy, or turning to spiritual practices can all be helpful in nurturing your well-being. These tools are valuable because they guide you, support you, and offer encouragement. However, the key is to understand that they cannot create happiness for you. They can only assist you in your journey. True happiness comes from within, from the choices you make each day, and from your internal attitude toward life. When you take ownership of your happiness, you stop relying on others or external circumstances to make you feel fulfilled. Instead, you become the creator of your own joy. You stop waiting for someone or something else to bring you happiness and start actively building a life that brings you peace and contentment. Embracing the practice of happiness. Finally, it's important to remember that happiness is not a destination. It's not something that you achieve once and for all. It's a way of living. It's a practice, a mindset, a set of habits, and a daily choice. Each day you have the opportunity to choose how you respond to life, to focus on gratitude, to practice mindfulness, and to be compassionate toward yourself. When you choose to take responsibility for your happiness, you discover that it was within your power all along. It's not about waiting for the perfect circumstances or for others to change. It's about changing your mindset and choosing happiness in the here and now. You will still face challenges, moments of sadness, frustration, and disappointment. These are natural parts of life. But when you are responsible for your happiness, you can navigate those moments with greater ease, knowing that your inner peace is not tied to external events. You can embrace life's difficulties with resilience because you have developed the internal strength to remain grounded. Conclusion: your happiness is your responsibility. Taking responsibility for your happiness means recognizing that you are the architect of your own joy. It's about looking inward, finding peace in the present, and cultivating a mindset of gratitude, self-compassion, and mindfulness. It's about understanding that external circumstances don't define your happiness. You do. The more you take ownership of your happiness, the more empowered you will feel, and the more joy and peace you will experience in your life. Happiness is not a far-off goal. It is a practice that you can begin today. And once you realize that, you'll discover that true happiness was within you all along. 7. Impermanence makes everything temporary. One of the most profound and transformative teachings of Buddhism is the concept of anicca, or impermanence. At its core, Anika reminds us that everything in life, whether it's joy or sorrow, success or failure, praise or criticism, is temporary. The very nature of life is change, and nothing stays the same forever. This realization, far from being disheartening, is a tool of liberation. By embracing impermanence, we can learn to let go of attachment and flow with the natural rhythm of life, finding peace and grace in every moment. The nature of change. Everything is temporary. Take a moment to reflect on the many experiences in your life. Think of the happiest moments, those celebrations, successes, or milestones that brought you immense joy and excitement. At the time, you probably felt as though those moments were perfect, something you'd want to last forever. But did they? Over time, the excitement faded and life moved forward. New challenges and new joys arose, and the intensity of that moment became just a part of your past. The same truth applies to difficult moments in life. Think about times of hardship, whether it was a painful breakup, the loss of a loved one, or a failure you thought was insurmountable. In those moments, it may have seemed like the pain would never end. The weight of grief and sorrow may have felt crushing. Yet, as time passed, the pain softened, and the edges of the experience faded. Eventually, you moved on, even though it might have felt impossible at the time. This is the nature of impermanence. Everything in life, both the highs and the lows, is in a constant state of flux. No situation, no emotion, no moment remains unchanged forever. The liberating truth of impermanence. Understanding impermanence can be incredibly liberating. First, it offers comfort when you are facing difficult or challenging times. When you recognize that no matter how hard or painful your current situation may seem, it will not last forever, you can face it with greater resilience. Pain, grief, and hardships are all part of the human experience, but their transient nature means that they will eventually pass. By accepting that change is inevitable, you free yourself from the fear that your suffering will be endless. But impermanence also invites you to release your grip on the good moments in life. Success, joy, and love, while beautiful, are also fleeting. This is not a reason to withhold from embracing and enjoying them. Rather, it enhances the beauty of those moments. Knowing that good times are temporary allows you to fully appreciate and savor them while they are here. Instead of constantly worrying about when they might end, you can immerse yourself in the present moment, cherishing it for what it is, letting go of attachment. In Buddhist philosophy, attachment is considered one of the primary causes of suffering. We often become attached to people, possessions, experiences, and outcomes. We believe that if only we could hold on tightly to these things, we would secure our happiness. But the truth is, all things are impermanent. When we cling to something, we set ourselves up for pain, because those things, whether relationships, material possessions, or even our own achievements, are bound to change or fade. For instance, imagine tying your happiness to a particular relationship. If that relationship ends or changes, what happens to your sense of self-worth? You might feel lost, empty, or uncertain. The same is true for our attachment to material possessions or career success. When these things are no longer in our lives, we often find ourselves adrift. But when we understand the impermanent nature of all things, we begin to enjoy them fully without becoming dependent on them for our happiness. Embracing impermanence doesn't mean we stop caring or become indifferent to life. Quite the opposite. It allows us to live with greater awareness and intention. We recognize that each moment is unique and fleeting, and we begin to treat every moment with the preciousness it deserves. We stop taking life for granted and start to notice the beauty in the ordinary, the laughter of a loved one, the warmth of sunlight, or the simple joy of breathing deeply in the present moment. Living with greater awareness. When you embrace impermanence, you start to experience life with deeper awareness and gratitude. The beauty of mindfulness becomes evident in this practice. You learn to observe how everything changes and flows, whether it's a passing emotion, the rise and fall of thoughts, or the changing of seasons. Life becomes a series of moments, each one valuable in its own right, and you begin to appreciate each one for what it is. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present and aware of the ebb and flow of your experience. Whether you are feeling joy, sorrow, frustration, or peace, you come to understand that these feelings are temporary. When you experience happiness, you savor it, knowing it's fleeting, but you also welcome the sadness or frustration that may arise because you know it too will pass. This gives you a sense of freedom, as you no longer have to fear the loss of good moments or dread the arrival of difficult ones. Compassion and understanding, viewing people with awareness. Impermanence also invites a shift in how we view others. When you understand that everything, including people, is impermanent, you are more likely to approach relationships with compassion and understanding. People are not static. They grow, change, and evolve, just as you do. You may find yourself more forgiving when conflicts arise, seeing them as temporary rather than fixed. You can engage in relationships with an open heart, knowing that nothing lasts forever, and that includes both the challenges and the blessings of your connections. This awareness also leads to a deeper appreciation for the people in your life. When you recognize that your time with others is limited, you begin to cherish the moments you share more fully. Whether it's a conversation with a friend, a family gathering, or simply spending time with someone you care about, you come to appreciate the preciousness of each interaction, knowing that one day this moment, too, will pass. Focusing on what truly matters. Accepting impermanence teaches us to focus on what truly matters. When you know that life is in a constant state of flux, you stop wasting energy on things that are beyond your control. You stop dwelling on the past, regretting what could have been, or fearing the future, unsure of what might happen. Instead, you start to center yourself in the present moment and ask yourself, what can I do right now to live fully, love deeply, and grow authentically? This question anchors you in the present, helping you focus on what is most important: your inner peace, your relationships, and your personal growth. It reminds you to direct your energy toward what is in your power to influence: your thoughts, actions, and responses. When you stop living in the past or fearing the future, you begin to live with greater intention, choosing to spend your time on things that nurture your soul and align with your values. The role of emotions in impermanence. It's important to note that embracing impermanence does not mean you become indifferent or detached from your emotions. You will still experience sadness, joy, frustration, and love. These are natural aspects of being human, and impermanence does not take away the richness of the emotional experience. However, the difference is that you no longer allow your emotions to control you. When you are aware of their transient nature, you can feel sadness without becoming consumed by it. You can feel joy without clinging to it. The key is to engage with your emotions fully while recognizing that they will pass, just like the clouds in the sky. This gives you a sense of balance, a grounded peace that allows you to experience life deeply without being ruled by your emotions. Death and the ultimate truth of impermanence. Ultimately, embracing impermanence forces us to confront the reality of death, a topic that many of us avoid, but which is part of the natural cycle of life. Buddhism encourages us to face death as a fact of existence, not as something to fear, but as something that teaches us to live with greater urgency and purpose. When you truly understand that life is finite, you begin to value your time and relationships more. You stop putting off your dreams and start taking action toward what matters most. Instead of fearing the end, you begin to focus on making the most of the time you have. This is not a morbid or fearful realization, but a liberating one. It helps you to live with intention, to spend your time on things that matter, and to love deeply, knowing that this moment is all you really have. Mindfulness and gratitude as practices. To fully embrace impermanence, start with mindfulness. Pay attention to the changing nature of your thoughts, feelings, and surroundings. Notice how emotions rise and fall, how the seasons change, and how even your body transforms over time. This awareness helps you to navigate life with greater ease and wisdom as you become attuned to the rhythm of change. Gratitude is another powerful tool for internalizing impermanence. When you understand that nothing lasts forever, you begin to appreciate the people, moments, and experiences in your life more deeply. Instead of focusing on what you don't have or what might be missing, you learn to celebrate the present moment and all that it contains. Conclusion: life as a beautiful flow. In the end, impermanence is not something to fear, it is a gift. It frees you from the chains of attachment and allows you to live with greater peace, presence, and intention. By embracing change, you stop resisting the natural flow of life and begin to flow with it. Life is precious precisely because it is temporary. When you understand this, you stop clinging to the past, stop worrying about the future, and learn to fully experience the beauty of the present moment. Everything is temporary, and in that truth lies both freedom and peace. Remember, impermanence is not an obstacle. It's the foundation of freedom, gratitude, and peace. Life's ever-changing nature is not something to resist, but to embrace. When you recognize that everything is temporary, both the highs and the lows, you free yourself from the fear of loss or the pressure of perfection. Embrace life as it is, fluid, dynamic, and precious. The moments of joy you experience are fleeting, so savor them fully. Likewise, when challenges arise, know that they too will pass, and in time, you will grow stronger. Nobody cares as much as you think they do, and that's a beautiful truth. It means you are not bound by the judgments or expectations of others. You are free to focus on your own growth, happiness, and purpose. Stop wasting energy on what doesn't serve you. Let go of distractions, opinions, and fears. Instead, align with your truth and allow your life to unfold with mindful intention. Live fully, love deeply, and pursue your goals unapologetically. The power to create a meaningful life is already within you. Be present, trust your journey, and flow with life as it is, knowing that in every fleeting moment there is infinite beauty and potential for growth.